Hey guys, welcome to a live here in Carlsbad. I got a good friend here, and I say friend because I've known this guy now for, 11 years?
Yeah, 11.
11 years. All right, it's a good friend of mine, Matt Smith, out of Oregon. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing great, man.
Doing all right?
It's
Let's
good
give
to
him
be
a
here.
hand, dude. I love it.
Hey,
All for you, dude. All right. But how we met in this business, I think we really came closer together, not because of sales. We grew closer together because of the background that we each had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think without that, yes, I think we would have known each other, but I don't know if as early.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I think it was early in our career there's a lot of like folks who aren't like us here, right? Like doesn't mean that only athletes do this but when you get around, it's like if I was in Paris, right? And this guy just says something in English, right? Just like, and I'm like, oh, he's my friend now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like automatically. Now, if he was in San Diego and he said, I'm like, dude, I don't even know the guy.
Right.
But all automatically, dude, we were in line together, going to McDonald's. We were all pumped, right? Purely because we spoke the same language. And I think, dude, or I know that was a big reason why we came closer to each other early on. And I think we saw a lot of parallels between what we did in college. You play college football, I play college baseball, but really the track into sales, not just life insurance. I just so happened I got lucky enough that I fell into life insurance sales. But to be honest with you, I believe that, I would hope that I would have fell into some sales position anyways, because the core principles of what we do in sports, dude, it's very, very similar. But on the surface, it may not look so similar. You know, so if you could, dude, share with us your track. And if you're watching this man is one of the best sales folks I've ever met. And sales, very practical, like easy to understand. There's some folks who say, you're like, God, he's a wizard. Do you know what I mean? Like, what did he just say? Like, it's nothing that's like, wow, you really just like, no, like this is why. And he always explains the why. And I think when we're playing sports, it's easy to coach say, hey, swing inside the ball. But when he tells you why you're swinging inside the ball and what that's going to do, you know what I mean? Like now you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Versus like, well, I could just pull the ball. Why would I hit on the inside of the ball? I just pull it to right field. But athletes, they just get the adjustments, dude. So what you've done, all-time leader in sales at Family First Life, debate it if you want. All right. But I tell you this, dude, I think we were putting stuff on like Excel spreadsheets and notepads back in the day. So there may be some numbers that are a little off, but I'm pretty sure they're on the lower end. Now that we missed some. All right. But my man has been killing it. He's out of the Northwest, Integrity Partner. And if you don't know what that means, Google Integrity. Just Google it, put Integrity Marketing Group and see what that means. But it's some massive stuff, dude. And, what's your track, man? Thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Well, the one thing I would say that's pretty interesting about, having a background in athletics, and everybody comes from a different background for sure. You're not required to be an athlete to succeed here, clearly. However, I think one of the things that, at least if you've played in college, you realize that you get treated like a business, and they don't care about your feelings anymore. And one of the things that, you've done it at a very high level, and a lot of these top producers over time that have done it at a high level, is the one thing that we probably have over most people that makes us perform a little bit better is just discipline, right? Because discipline in athletics, there's plenty of times that you and I probably didn't feel like going to practice. And there's no way that you can, half-ass football practice, because if you I'm just going to go 50% here and get your head knocked off. So it doesn't matter if you have to go full speed all the time, whether you feel like it or not. Well, in business, it's exactly the same. There are so many times throughout my sales career, whether it was in the car industry or, any sort of, could be, our software company that we had, or financial services for the past 12, 13 years, whatever the run's been, where I haven't felt like showing up. But I never let my feelings get in the way of everything else. And I think a lot of people out there, if they were truly honest with themselves, the power of choice is one of the most dangerous things that you can have in this business, because you're self-employed and then you have a little bit of pride and you're like, hey, I don't have to answer to anybody. If I want to, I don't have to do this or that, or I don't have to do. And I never had that attitude of like, whether I had a good week or a bad week, it was just going to work every single time. I remember, Dom, early in my career where I used to dial on Saturday mornings and I'd be out of town somewhere, and maybe I was at my mother-in-law's place and my brother-in-law would say, hey, let's go to breakfast or let's do this. And I'd be like, 8 to 12, I'd dial. So if you want to pay me like $8,000 to go to breakfast, we can go to breakfast, or I can just see you at noon and we'll go have some lunch. But it was probably the biggest thing that I learned early in business, the thing that I'm most thankful for, is I understood what opportunity cost was. Because what happened, Dom, is like when I worked at my family's dealership, Dave Smith Motors up in Idaho for 8 years out of college, like I knew that if I took the Chrysler vacation to Hawaii or went to the Super Bowl or whatever free trip, with the 1099 things, similar to the insurance companies, right?
Right.
That I would not make about $8,000 of sales that week. So it was going to cost me money to go to the Super Bowl, whether it was free or not, and you got to just pay the 1099, but free in the sense that you didn't have to come out with money out of your pocket. So that was one of the most beneficial things that I can remember early on that I learned in business, is like, wow, everything comes with a cost. You say yes to this, you say no to something else. So
what were some things, and I think of, man, that's great. And the things that we had to make choices with in college, it was like in business, it's, hey, do we take that trip or not? But in college, what are some things that you were disciplined enough to learn discipline enough, or you had teammates that maybe didn't make those same choices that you did, and you know what I mean? And, or that most of us did to finish your career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's some people who started freshman year, dude, they weren't there by the end of by senior year, and it had nothing to do with talent.
Yeah.
So what were some of those things that folks can maybe say, latch on to?
Yeah. I mean, number one, I was lucky to have some good parents, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So they preach things like grades and showing up every day and how important. I'd never thought anything else. And then I was lucky enough, not even knowing really what mentorship was, but I was lucky enough to like become really close friends with John Kidna when I first went to college.
There you go.
We played in the NFL for 16 years, right?
Where'd you go to college at?
Central Washington.
Washington.
So his wife was from the same hometown as mine, that I grew up, and we got to be good friends. But he was that, upperclassman that held me to higher standards. And the cool thing about being held to higher standards is, number one, I probably didn't even know what a standard was at that point, right? And one of the best things you could know is just be clean slate, just like in business. A lot of times people will dial their first bit of leads and not have any judgment on it, right? Not have any judgment or anything, and they'll crush it. And then all of a sudden, some guy in the corner is chirping, "Oh, those aren't good leads. You got those leads?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" I remember when I first got in this business, I didn't have any direct mail leads. So I did internet leads. And I lived in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and they just said that we don't have any direct mail leads when I first got. And I was like, dang, everybody else got direct mail. So I did research, and I was calling all these live transfers and internet leads, and I was crushing it. And I was thinking, man, this is awesome, right? And I was competing against 5 other people, and I thought, this is awesome.
Right.
Man, this is easy. This is awesome, right? And so it's interesting. Got to be careful, where you're getting your advice, who you're hanging around, all those different things. And that, whether it was college learning those lessons or early childhood with friends or your parents telling you don't hang around Timmy. Timmy's, look at where Timmy's headed. Don't hang around him,
What is the perceived failure, that can be looked at, in business, like say in insurance, sales in general, and what's that failure in baseball or sports that you have clarity on? Do you know what I mean? That, somebody who doesn't know the game of ball, right? Say I'm talking baseball, and I go 0 for 4 for a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know the game, you may go, God, he's terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you know the game, you may go, it's kind of normal that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And he hit 3 balls straight to the shortstop.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like those failures. Like what are the wins in what we do? Okay, that you can relate to back to when you were playing ball. That you can go, hey, like I remember shooting ball, we would do this, this, and this. And now in business, I might go out there and get no-showed 8 times. And it's how you respond to it. You ever got smoked in a football game?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you ever got like beat your whole team, or you just got like pancaked?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, do you just go sit down on the bench after and say, Coach, take me out?
No.
But in business and in sales, you've seen people put themselves on the bench. Is that fair to say?
All the time.
I was watching this thing on the captain, Derek Jeter. And there's this reporter that talked to him about his last season and saying that, your season wasn't so great, and do you feel that like you should have been dropped down in the lineup? Why didn't you tell the coach to put you down lower in the lineup? Because he was hitting second, and they were like, well, put him down like 7th or 8th. He's hitting like 200. And Derek laughed. He goes, that's why I'm me and you're you.
Right.
I'm an athlete, dude. I'm a competitor. What do I look like ever telling the coach, could you move me down the lineup? I kill my, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it was so foreign to him to say that. But this guy's not a bad guy. He's very rational with how he's thinking. It's for the team. You're not hitting good. He's looking at numbers. Let's put him down. Derek Jeter's like, I'm not a number, dude. And I think this athletes have that thought, that like you were talking about competition, that edge. Why is that edge so important? Why is that edge so important in business?
Oh, I mean, it's the difference between someone really winning in life and losing. I mean, sometimes you can't put it in people. You know what I mean? But there's things you can do in business that can help you find your edge. Like if you are the average of the 5 people you hang around the most, so you need to audit your circle, number one, and say, who's going to pull me to the top and have those higher standards? Because one of the great things about athletics, Dom, is people might watch football and think, they're just running around tackling each other and hitting each other. It's like, if you're a defensive end, you're supposed to take a counter on with your inside shoulder. If you take it with the outside shoulder, they can cut it up the field, which is why the coach tells you have to sacrifice you for the linebacker. Don't lose contain, all these little things. All this stuff, don't spin inside here, like all these details. So it's funny when you know the game, like baseball or whatever sport you choose, you can look at it and say, oh, I know what happened there, or I know why he's coming out, or, whatever. Well, it's no different in our business. We can look at someone and we can do live dials, and they can get on the phone, and someone would say, I didn't fill out the form, and you're thinking, oh, okay. And then I don't know what to say. Instead of saying, oh, perfect, that's actually the purpose of my phone call. What happens is most of the time is the spouse fills out the form and you're not aware of it. Totally understand. So this in regards to getting you a death benefit online for life insurance quotes. My job is just to get you this information. What time are you and your spouse generally home from work? 6. Okay, it takes me about 10 or 15 minutes to get you this information. I'm going to be dispatched out in your area on Tuesday between about 6:30 and 7, and I'll just get you this information then and let your spouse know that, Matt Smith is coming out. What's the color of your house? You know what I mean? I haven't dialed the phone in 4 years, but if I get not interested or busy or, I need the price or whatever it is, call me back. It's embedded in my brain to know exactly what to say without hesitation. And the thing about, we were talking about earlier, the thing about sales is a skill set game, which means anybody can truly do it as long as they develop skills for it. Now, how people quit in sales is a lot of times is like, hey, work harder, work longer, work, and then you still have the same level of skills that you have, and you keep failing. The truth of the matter is, number one, you and I have talked about this, but the number one epidemic in our industry, besides our minds, is the phone. So people are poor at the phone skills. They don't know how to get in front of people. They don't have a money problem. They have a people problem, because you get in front of enough people, the money follows, and the rest will take care of it itself. And the beautiful thing about our business, too, is everything has metrics inside of our business. So you're able to really reverse engineer numbers and understand how many dials, how many leads you're supposed to buy, what is required. It's not that deep or difficult, but it is a thinking person's game at the same time, So it's important for people to have a clear plan, because what happens when you get a clear plan of how you're going to approach the business, then the uncertainty starts to go away. And too many people are just like, they're not confident, and they're uncertain, and they don't rep it out. They don't rep out, they should be on Zoom live dials or in a WorkSpots office making dials around other people. It's just that simple. And if you can't figure out one of those two things, I don't even know how you're going to really make it. And the worst part is even veteran agents that have experience on the phone think they're good, and they're actually not very good. I've done enough live dial coaching for producers that do 30, 40 families, Hall of Fame type numbers in a month or year. And you see them get on the phone and they're like, hey, now is not a good time. Can you call me back? Sure. Instead of saying, oh, perfect. That's the purpose of my phone call. This is in regards to that life insurance request you have online. What time are you generally home from work, you and your spouse? 6 o'clock. Okay. My job is to get you this information. Maybe it takes me 10 to 15 minutes to do so. I'm going to see you between about 6:30 and 7 on Tuesday. Does that sound fair? Yes. And you set appointment versus, people stumble over these. They're small objections. They're not even a big deal.
Yeah.
And people stumble over them day after day, and they're like, these leads suck. I'm like, your skill set's bad, dude. That's why you don't think the crazy thing to me is like, there's a reason why there's top producers. There's a reason why numbers, there's the rule of 80-20 that exists in sales, meaning the top 20% generally do 80% of the overall production. So if you're not in that top 20%, you're probably not asking yourself very many good questions, or you don't care enough, or you're scared, or maybe it's a combination of everything. But it's like, man, there's certain things you can do to advance in this business, but you have to be willing to do it. Now, and you have to be willing to get your hands dirty, meaning you have to be willing to then go door knock all the leads that don't have phone numbers on it and not think it's a big deal.
Right.
You have to not, present to one of the two spouses and rebook that appointment just because you're there and you want to be lazy. You want to present, then you don't get the deal. Then you're wondering why it's not working out. Like, there's principles in this business that you just have to abide by. Otherwise, you'll be humbled, And I mean, one thing that is great about sports is it is very humbling, because we generally fail more than we succeed. 100%. Especially baseball. Look at those numbers. Yeah. So it's like, understanding how you can tie in some discipline. So for everybody that's listening to this podcast, think of when you've operated at the highest level in anything you've done in your life. Let's say it was grades in school. Mm-hmm. Let's not even say it's athletics. Let's say it was when you just crushed that class. Well, it's because, generally speaking, proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. You probably prepared, and you probably had some straight discipline, and you cared enough to have that discipline, and that's why you aced the final, or why you took down that class the way you did, and you remember how that felt. Mm-hmm. Well, there's same thing here. Like, there's certain things that you have to get a hold of. And what's crazy is I love some of these new agents that are coming on because they're a little more vulnerable, or maybe I just ask better questions as I get later in this business or whatnot. But a lot of people are scared of the phone, or they trick themselves into not liking it. The funny thing is I didn't really like I love sales. Like, I'll be honest with you, the dopamine hit that I would get off some sales high, woo, that stuff was free.
Yes, sir.
Jeez, man, I'm trying to go out and Oh, that is a beautiful feeling. Maybe that was the real problem with me. But I'm on it. What's crazy about it is, like, I didn't love the phone. I didn't really love sitting in front of somebody presenting those things in a weird way too. Like, I didn't love it. I liked it. I don't think you have to love. One of my pet peeves in life is, if you love what you do, you'll never have to work a day in my life. And people in insurance be like, I love it. I love it. And I'm like, man, really? Like
all of it?
Like, yeah, like you love all of it. I'm like, okay. I mean, if that's true for you, then congratulations. That's awesome. But for 99% of adults, we're probably not. I didn't grow up being like, I'm gonna be an insurance man.
Nah, man. Hey, like in baseball, dude. I didn't love tee work, but I needed tee work.
Yeah.
Every day I had to hit off a tee. If I didn't hit off a tee for a day or two, my swing's jacked up. But I hated hitting off a tee. But you know what I did love? I loved hitting the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved hitting the ball.
Yeah.
So I did what I didn't want to do. And I think we do that. You talked about competition, dude. And I was watching this thing on, I think it was on Netflix, about Bob Ross, right? Fro, painter. And he said, talent is the pursuit of interest. Dude, I must have sat back and thought about that for about 10, 15 minutes. Like, wow, that is so right. Yeah. You're not just talented. You just have talent. No, you're interested. And you're pursuing that interest, and then you become talented. Mm-hmm. Competition. Do you think athletes, because of competition, have an edge in acquiring talent?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because usually people like that attract people like that. Competitive people like you and I, we loved leaderboards, right? We were always fighting to be at the top of the leaderboard because we cared about all the little details, right? Yeah. And everything mattered to us. And it's like, the beautiful thing is when you focus on other things of like, hey, I set the most amount of appointments for my agency this week, let's say. And the money's going to follow. So when you start focusing on little details like that, how many, emergency response network referrals did you get this week? The most in the agency. I'd be talking about that. But if you don't know how to execute referrals, everybody's like, this is what's funny, Dom. Everybody's like, man, some of these leads, they've been called 5 or 6 times. And I'm like, what's great about asking for a referral that you sell, right? You get about 4 in each house on the emergency response network. It's really easy. This is the simplest way to get a referral. Is no one's calling them except you. It's amazing. Try it out. And it costs you nothing. It's crazy. Don't be scared. It's so funny. No. But people are like, well, that's something new. And because it's new and different, I think I'm not going to do it because I don't like money. So I'm not going to do it.
Change.
Why is change so? That's the other thing too, is for most people is like, they get good at maybe one thing, but they never really create a domino effect. They'll be like, you know what? I'm good at selling this one product. Get me off this product, I suck, right. Or something like that. Or maybe they're like, I don't know how to. We have top performers in the company that don't sell very many annuities, and it's such a head scratch for me. I'm like, really? Like, so you just overlook that whole advanced market sales section because why? Like, it's wild to me. Like, the one thing that you're right about is I was having a conversation with one of my close friends that I've actually played football with in college. And he runs one of the largest sales organizations in the world, actually, where he's got that are W-2, like 16,000 W-2 salespeople, like a big old company. And he's like the president of sales type guy. And he and I were having a conversation, and he says, you know what everybody that performs at the highest level has? It's kind of along the lines of the painter you just talked about. He goes, curiosity. People are curious. You stay curious. Like, you know dang well, Dom, when you first got in this business, you could hardly sleep, though, because you were thinking about selling insurance, because I know that's how I was.
Dude, all the time. But, like when it was baseball, all I was thinking about was the game.
Yeah.
Like, I just couldn't sleep up until I was like dude, till I was done. It'd be like we'd have a Friday night game. Saturday morning, we got to be like, dude, I just can't wait for tomorrow. You know, just because after you went 0 for 5.
So, you know what's crazy, Dom? When I dialed for a long time early in this business, probably 6, 7 straight years on Saturday mornings is when I would dial, like I said. Guess what? Friday night felt like a college football game I was playing Saturday morning. I'm not kidding.
I know.
I would literally be in my bed thinking about, man, I got to dial tomorrow and it's on. Like, it's on, dude. I would have that, like, it's on.
I know.
And not that I wanted to either. Not like, oh, I'm really excited. I just like, dude, it's time to freaking pay the piper.
Dude,
like,
it's time to get great.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something about this deal. You're talking about that dopamine hit that you got from the sale. Dude, it's the same one that you used to get when you smack somebody in
yeah,
football.
Of course.
It's the same one.
Yeah.
I thought I loved baseball, which I do. I thought I couldn't live without it. I was wrong. Because the same feeling I get out of leaving Mary's house and helping her, dude, it was the same feeling I got from hitting that bomb. And then you have so many different ways to feel good about it. It's like the same way when you could, I don't know, like you strip the ball, right? And you strip the ball, football, and then they recover it. You're like, damn, like we didn't get the ball back.
Yeah.
But that's a win.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And in this business, there's so much of that.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, dude, you got to see it as like that one leg you just talked about. You can look at that one leg as, damn, I drove an hour and only the husband's here. Or you can look at it as, this is a time for me to do what I know is right. Mm-hmm. This is a time for me to just, okay, reschedule it, move on, door knock a couple houses with positivity. It's always two ways to look at it, man. And I think when ball and sports had to teach us a positive way to look at it because we couldn't go on the bench and nobody wanted to go on the bench, you know? So it was like, you got to fix it. You know?
The other big thing, Dom, too, was this, which is crazy, is the more that I learned about us as human beings, the more I start to understand what goes on. So I'll give you a couple examples. First of all, the human brain is 3 times more negative than positive. And let me give you an example of why this is. So the Journal of Science did a study a few years back of neurosurgery of like 100+ patients, like pretty big surgery. And they're able to stimulate sections of the brain and make someone feel drunk, make someone feel happy, make someone feel sad, make someone frustrated and angry. The number one thing that human beings want, this is wild, is not feeling happy, not feeling sad, not drunk. It's actually being frustrated and angry. And they said they were trying to determine, why does the humans want to be frustrated and angry all the time? And they're like, because that is where you're actually have to change. So believe it or not, as much as you try to avoid the change, your brain is telling you need to change and adapt. Because if you're happy, you're not changing really, or there's no feedback. But being frustrated, now I'm thinking to myself, all these years in business, I'm like, now I know why I'm so frustrated and angry all the time. I must be like that. I must be like that. So what's crazy as you start to understand your emotions more, because people are super emotional. Like, Dom, you and I were just talking about this recently, but like I'm like, is it just me, or are more people seem to be a lot more emotional these days than I don't remember ever having so many people with feelings out there. Like, so and so Tom he said I was not attractive and I am offended. And it's like these days in business, little things happen and people latch on to emotions. And I mean, it's like, one thing I got told a long time ago about meditating was like, you're going to have all these emotions fleeting coming in and out of your brain. And it's like traffic. And the key is you got to take yourself away from those emotions and say, watch the traffic go by. Just because you have emotion doesn't mean you have to go get out in the middle of traffic and get in the car with it and drive off with the dang thing. you can actually let these emotions go by. Now, hey, 24-hour rule that Warren Buffett talks about, if you're still 1,000% pissed off 24 hours later, then you need to talk about it with your manager or whoever, then have the conversation by all means. I get it. We're all very emotional people. But a lot of times people will they'll turn something small into something big, and that's just not a good way to run a successful business. It's just not.
Right. And or career, wherever you like, you know what I mean? And you're playing ball. It's like, all right, my man, like they made an error. You know what I'm saying? The coach, you know what I mean? Like he made a mistake. Well, what are we going to do? I want to do this. I want to do that. I don't want, like, let's just pack it up, man. There's a lot of guys, football, baseball, any team that you're on, that off the field, it's off the field, right? Like they're not hanging out, but when they strap it on, it's game time. You know what I mean? You think every player loves their coach? You know what I mean? Yeah. But he calls the plays. They got their best interest in mind. When they all win or they all lose, right? And in this business, it's the same thing. You're like, well, you think he did that to lose? He wants to lose? You know what I mean? Like, nah. All right, cool. Well, let's talk about it. Let's make some changes. So, Matt, I appreciate you being in here today and helping us out, dude. There's going to be a big wave of athletes that just go from not knowing to knowing.
Love it.
Whatever they decide to do from there, all good. But I just know that if my friend Marcus would have never been on Craigslist, I don't know when I would have ever found out about this.
Yeah.
And I was graduated, done for a year, looking around going, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I don't think people should go through that, man. They don't have to. And with these platforms that we have to get out there and spread the good word, FFL, insurance sale. I mean, it's the America's best kept secret that everybody knows about.
For sure.
Everybody knows about it, but they don't know where they fit in. So anything you want to say in closing, brother?
No, man, I think it's good. I think that, with the way that this world is, even with athletes, like you think about the transfer portal, right, Dom? And so many people want to go to a different school or whatever because they got feelings or their coaches. And it's like the best thing you can get is be in a college where you get treated like a business and understand it, and then use all those things in the real world, because there's some tools there that every athlete has been able to overcome and that can really apply to our business and just kick some serious ass straight up.
1,000%. And that transfer portal, God.
It's like in college basketball, I think 45% of the transfer portal ends up not even going to continuing to play. It's crazy.
And just it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. I can't even. JC guys, I think about the guys at JC that are looking to transfer in.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, that's not happening.
Yeah, good luck.
No, we got this guy from Kansas coming over.
Yeah.
It's like
a new world.
It's a new world, man. It just is. And even more reason why we got to put the word out.
I agree.
This is something that's out there that you can go out there and get league minimum.
Yeah. People would be surprised on how they would feel getting into a sales environment and how exactly what you said. You miss baseball. It's like, no, you get the same feelings over here, dude. I promise.
Dude, you missed the locker room.
Yeah.
It ain't really about it's before the game, after the game.
Yep.
It's that stuff that we miss. And you get that. Just, you just don't get all sweaty and stuff. But sometimes it's hot outside and you're running around. This is true. All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Peace out, you guys.